Going live. All righty. Happy Thursday, or whatever day it is that you're watching this. Hopefully it's Thursday, because that means we're doing this thing live. And we're doing the Limitless Mindset Roundtable today. We got a good one for you today, talking about the law of harvest. But before we dive into it, I got two special guests here with me today, Mr. Tim Cruz and John Bodnar. Well, I'll let them introduce themselves here in a hot second. But before I do, let me introduce myself so you know who I am. My name is Bodnar. I'm a business owner, fitness professional, transformed well over 2,000 people's lives through this little thing we call health and fitness. Real estate investor, a husband, a father, and one of the most grateful people on this planet. And really grateful for these two guys I'm about to introduce. Not only do they bring awesome wisdom for everybody's listening, but they honestly bring a lot of wisdom to me as well. And so without further ado, I'd like to have Mr. Tim Cruz go ahead and introduce yourself and tell the peoples out there who you are.
What's going on, guys? Coach Tim here with BSB Wealthy Body Coaching, self-proclaimed meathead and a self-proclaimed nerd. But my true passion is really helping people reach the healthiest, wealthiest, strongest, best version of themselves. And we do that through fitness, nutrition, and also mindset. So that's what we're here for today. And I'm excited for what we're about to chat about today.
Yeah, buddy. Tim's a stud. And he's super freaking strong. If you guys want to know, like stupid strong. So, all right, John,
he's nerd strong. That's
yeah.
Real big books.
Yeah. All right. Well, my name is John Bodnar, and I am a coach at BSB Wealthy Body Coaching. And my primary goal in life is to help people realize their full potential by determining their limiting beliefs, upgrading them into self-belief, and getting rid of self-doubt. And when you can get rid of self-doubt, you can accomplish absolutely anything that you put your mind to.
Hell yeah. All right, fellas, let's rock and roll. Let's get into episode number 10, the law of harvest. So what's the law of harvest? The law of harvest states that our life is like a garden. We reap what we sow. Every word we speak, every thought we think, and every choice we make is a seed for creating our future. All results in our lives are the fruits that we grow from our beliefs and the choices we make because of those beliefs. It also says we can alter our results by altering the beliefs that bear them. So I'm actually going to start by letting Tim go ahead, and I want you to take this over and give us your thoughts on breaking this down in layman terms. What does actually the law of harvest mean?
I think you can't say it any better than we reap what we sow. This is an adage as old as time, right? It's straight out of the Bible. It's out of a lot of ancient religions. But in practical sense, layman's terms, our beliefs dictate our thoughts dictate our words dictate our actions dictate our results. So ultimately, we start by planting that seed with focusing on the belief aspect, and down the chain, if you follow it down the chain, our results are changed. And that can be for positive or for negative. So if currently, if you aren't happy with your results, I would go all the way back to what you're planting in your garden, AKA your belief system, and then try to bear some different fruit.
Yeah, 100%. John, what is your definition?
I mean, that's a tough definition to follow up, to be honest with you. But reaping what you sow is. I'm going to give a little example instead, because I think Tim defined it extremely well. So a very easy example is if you're constantly failing, or you're interpreting your experience as failures, and deep down you have this belief that you're always going to fail, that you fail at everything you try, then it makes sense. It makes sense that everything you do tends to be interpreted as failure or is genuine failure. So conversely, if you believe that you're going to succeed at absolutely everything you do, then you're always going to feel like you're succeeding, and ultimately you will succeed in whatever you choose to succeed in. So that's a good way to look at it.
I'm going to take this up the notch from, right now we're focusing on beliefs. We can talk about maybe words, but I really want to focus on actions. And so we're actually see this in a practical sense is, so the person who's watching this right now, maybe you're overweight, right? 30, 40, 50, 60 pounds overweight, right? And you can look at that like a bad thing, or you can be like, everything I've done to this point has got me to be 30, 40, 50, 60 pounds overweight. And it's when you can actually do that, you can take full responsibility, understand that like everything happened to you for a reason. It didn't happen on accident, it happened because of your hormones, it didn't happen because of your kids, it didn't happen because of your job. And like, I'm getting real with you real fast, just so you know, so if it's starting to hurt your feelings, like it's gonna keep coming, I'm sorry. Actually, not sorry, but like you need to hear this, is that like, it's nothing to do with external factors, it's everything to do with you. And that's really what the law of harvest states, is that ultimately the seeds that you plant are ultimately the fruits that you bear. So if you're planting the seeds of saying that it's okay to have pizza every single night, or to have just, have a pizza night every other night, or have ice cream, or again, like those things aren't inherently bad, but to justify those things as a reason why you're not sticking to your plan, then ultimately you're going to reap what fruit, right? The fruit of where you're at right now, not being happy, not being healthy, not feeling confident in yourself. Ultimately, the moment you can actually take full responsibility for that, and actually that should actually put you at peace, rather than feel like overwhelmed. Because the moment you actually take that responsibility, you understand that everything you do, every action you take, every word you say, every thought that you think is going to play into not only your present situation, but also your future, right? So what you do today, the thoughts you think, the words you say, the actions you do will play a really good indicator of where you're going to be in 12 weeks, in 6 months, in 12 months, right? And I think that's actually really powerful when you're able to truly take that and own it, because it's very much just like planting a garden or planting a seed. Like if you water it and you take care of it, what's going to happen? It will grow, right? So, so the fruit we harvest is the result of the seeds we planted and the roots that we have developed. When we are frustrated with our harvest, or lack thereof, we must consider our seeds and our roots, right? And so the circumstances of our life right now are the result of the seeds we have planted and the roots we have developed in the past. So I basically touched on this a little bit, but John, go ahead and kind of fill in the blanks here of basically what this is actually saying.
Yeah. So as you were talking about, this slide is all about taking that responsibility and saying, yes, what I have today is a direct result of what I have done in the past. And yes, we can talk about beliefs, but you're right, it's about actions. And so if you are seeing here like, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that. It's like, well, what have you done to actually get that? Or I do have this and I don't want it. Well, what did you do to get that? And it's not saying, oh, you deserve to be in a bad situation, but you got yourself there. You truly did. And so what I like about this is when we are frustrated, it is so important to look back and say, like, well, like I said, what have I done? What haven't I done? And what can I do today? And the biggest or the most misunderstood part about responsibility, which we've touched on before, is that it feels like a bad thing. If you're responsible for something, it feels like, oh, I'm taking all this blame, or I'm ashamed because it was my responsibility and I failed. Well, instead, responsibility is actually the what's the word I'm looking for? Can't think of it, but it's the epitome of relief, the epitome of freedom, by saying, yes, I'm responsible for this, therefore I can put it in whatever direction I choose. You just have to be willing to make those choices and take those actions to get the fruit that you need.
And I think we talked about this one of our earlier episodes, but the responsibility word, like literally what it means is that it's your ability to respond, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's ultimately, it just gives you the choice. So you can play, if you don't take responsibility, then you blame things on external factors like the weather, like the president, like like your hormones, like your job, like your employees, whatever it may be. When you do that, what you ultimately do is you lose your power, right? You lose your power to respond because of its external things, and it's not you. And you can't control those other things, but you can control yourself. It's the only, actually, that's the only thing you can't control is you, right? Tim, thoughts on this one?
So I'm gonna kind of continue with John with a little bit of an analogy. So this last weekend I was watching this documentary on pirates. It popped up on Netflix, and honestly, I don't know why I watched it, but yeah, but it was like a real documentary on pirates and like where the Pirates of the Caribbean and all that stuff came from. But the analogy, so skip the fact that it's about pirates. Imagine you're on a ship and your choices are to be the slave that lives down below, that does all the hard grunt labor, one of the crewmen, or the captain. Which one would you choose? I mean, honestly, like not rhetorical. Which one would you guys choose?
I'm probably a captain.
The captain, right? What about you, John?
Yeah, captain.
Captain. Okay, so what you just chose was full responsibility is what you just chose. But what you also chose was full authority and full power. So think of it in those terms. Like when you, my life philosophy is all about self-responsibility, right? Like taking full, unadulterated ownership of everything that happens in my life. So that's kind of the nail that I want to drive home here is if we take responsibility, we are also taking power. We are taking leadership of our own lives. And what's more empowering than that? Yeah, the buck starts and stops with you for sure. But guess what? It also, like you have the ability to start the buck. It isn't just negative. It could be all positive depending on what you do. If you're the crewman or you're the slave, it doesn't matter what you do. You have no responsibility, but you also have no freedom.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. That is awesome. It's like you being a conscious creator. Like that's literally what it is. Like
literally the captain of your
captain. Captain Conscious Creator. That's what we're calling from now on.
I'm glad you watched the Pyre documentary, Tim.
Me too.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
All right. So some of this, the quality and abundance of our fruit can never exceed the depth and maturity of our roots. All seeds have a set timeline for fruition. Faith, hope, persistence, and patience are our greatest allies in our quest for abundance. And I think ultimately, like this slide is really cool from the standpoint, especially when it comes to weight loss, is understanding that, like in the weight loss industry, it's very much 21 days, easy fix. What is the least amount of effort that I can do to get the maximum result possible? And it's ultimately this like expectation that leads people to getting frustrated, to lead to getting them to feel like they're doing something wrong, when in actuality, like you just have bad information. You have wrong expectations, because if you just extended your timeline, you just understood that like no matter how much you water a seed, like it's going to, like there's a certain gestational period, which we haven't talked about that law yet, but there is a certain gestational period in order for that seed to bear fruit. And the same thing happens when it comes to our goals. Like just because you plant the seed today doesn't mean that you get to reap the fruit tomorrow. There's a gestational period in between there. But understanding that, like if you don't even plant the seed, then why should you expect to bear the fruit? And that's what most people try to do with most diets or exercise plans or just weight loss in general, is they literally try to plant no seeds and try to get all the fruit, and they wonder why they're frustrated, right? And then of course, when it comes to having that faith, that hope, persistence, and patience, like those are your core values that you need to rely on to allow you to get through that gestational period. Because let me set the proper expectation for you. In order to change your body, it's going to take time. It's going to take some hurdles, some obstacles, and things are going to get in your way. It's not going to go exactly the way that you thought it did, or you thought it was going to. But ultimately, like that's where this faith, hope, persistence, and patience, as long as you have those values, you understand that, depending on how big your goal is, like it's going to take a certain amount of time to get there. But if you're able to continue to push forward, continue to water that seed, continue to plant new seeds every single day, like ultimately, it will come to fruition, right? So John, I'll follow that up.
Something very powerful that my dad said to me years ago that I haven't actually thought about in a while, but this is very much on that path. He said, I think he actually said, plant the seeds. If you plant the seeds and do everything that you need to do, you're going to get where you want to be. And if you don't do those things, you're never going to get to where you want to be, and it's going to take forever, which is obvious. But something else he said too is, and then when you focus on planting the seeds, and that's all you focus on, you get to where you want to be faster than you could possibly imagine. So it's important to have those expectations, but I encourage people to take timeline out of the equation almost entirely. By the end of my life might be the best timeline. Is like, I want to hit this goal, because we talked about before, if you are on the path to success, if you are planting the seeds every day, you will get there eventually. And the more you focus on your steps, the more you focus on your seeds, the more seeds you're going to plant, the more steps you're going to take, and therefore the faster you get there. So the secret to getting somewhere quickly is to not think about how fast you're getting there, just to think about every individual little step.
Yeah. And I think that very much piggybacks with what we talked about with the idea of extending your timeline, right? So if you extend your timeline to 2 years and it took you a year to get there, like you got there a whole year quicker, right? And so what John says is really powerful. And whether it's you extend your timeline, whether it's eliminate your timeline, like whatever you can sell yourself on it, like both ways just makes basically the whole goal is for you to eliminate this pressure that if you don't achieve a certain specific result or outcome, in a certain period of time, then what you're doing is not working. You should give up, right? Now, I emphasize result and outcome because planting seeds is basically like you doing the process work. So like that doesn't mean that you should wait 6 weeks or 12 weeks to start like eating better. Like start eating better today. Start moving better today. Like those are planting seeds. That's stuff you got to do consistently, right? It's like the outcome of losing 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 30 pounds. Like if that doesn't happen over the course of the first 6 weeks, who cares? Keep planting seeds, right? Keep focusing. Now, learn lessons along the way. It's like you should get curious. You should think of everything like an experiment. Like I wonder why. Like I've been doing this for 6 weeks and I've lost only 2 or 3 pounds. Like why is that, right? And you can start to inspect a little bit, but ultimately, like get curious rather than frustrated, and extend your timeline and understand that if you actually think about this from like I'll do it for the rest of my life and I'm all in committed, and I'll continue to plant seeds, and that's what we focused on. Ultimately, you'll figure out the right combination of water and seed in order for you to get your fruit that you're trying to bear, right? So yeah, so Tim, why don't you finish it off with your thoughts on this one?
Well, first of all, both things you guys said was solid. I really appreciate that. But I really love the point that you brought up about different goals requiring different lengths of time and different expectations, right? Like a lot of times when we talk about being unhappy, it's really because what we have doesn't meet what we expect. Like our expectations are not being met, right? So if we think that we're going to get this 6 week to flat abs or 21-day fat loss solution, like, and you've got 50 pounds to lose, like your expectations are way higher than what your physiology is capable of doing. And a good analogy of this is okay, we can plant different types of seeds, right? So we can plant like some tomatoes, or we can plant a redwood tree. And I don't know if you know anything about redwood trees, massive, like sequoias. We'll take sequoias, for instance. They're massive trees, but they take hundreds and hundreds of years to grow to make this massive, beautiful thing. Versus tomatoes, you can grow them in a season and you get fruit right away. So if we're talking about the differences in our goals and how long we have to be patient, how long we have to have faith, the persistence that's required, it's all contingent upon the goal that you have. And honestly, fat loss is really, that's kind of our tomatoes. It really is our tomatoes, right? Losing fat, it's not incredibly long-winded. Like if we're talking on the 100+ pound scale, yes, it's a couple years down the road, but really in the scope of life, average life expectancy is right around 86 years old. That's a blip on the radar compared to larger goals. And when I talk about larger goals, I'm thinking of more like changing the person you are on the inside, right? The stuff that we've been hammering through, like your mindset, your belief system, like all of that stuff. Those are the redwood trees. Those are the things that grow to this massive, beautiful thing, but they take a long time. And you have to have faith initially, because in the beginning, you aren't really going to see a lot of proof that the seed is growing, because under the soil, all the roots are starting to come out, but you can't see that because it's below the ground. But then eventually it breaks the ground. You see that, you see the evidence of your work, and it becomes easier and easier to trust the process. So in the beginning, it takes faith. You have to have faith in the process. And that's why I think what John said about not focusing on the timeline is so powerful. Like you want to focus on the process. You want to focus on the day-to-day. What are my habits? What are my beliefs? What are the things that I'm doing continually to help this plant grow into, or help the seed grow into a plant? What am I doing every day to continue that? And if you focus on where's my plant, you're going to be really frustrated, and most likely you're going to quit before the plant has a chance to even break the surface of the ground. So I found that very, very good and impactful what John said.
That's an amazing visual example too of goals from a standpoint of like, what are you planting the seeds, like tomato versus a sequoia or a redwood tree. Is just like what do you actually want to plant right now? Are you just planting some tomatoes that might come and go after 6 weeks, or are you trying to plant a tree that's going to be there around for 80, 90 years? Right. And I think if you actually go into it with that vision, you're like, okay, so I'm okay doing this a little bit slower so I can like deepen these roots, I can deepen this foundation. And when something tries to push you off, like a wedding, right, or a vacation, if your roots are deep, like, are you likely to fall off when you have deep roots? Mm-hmm. Right. And so these are all like the normal things that we come across when clients are into troubles, because it's a birthday, it's something, right? Whatever it is. But the deeper your roots are, the less those things throw you off, right? Like you need really big things to push you off when you have deep roots. And I think that's a really cool analogy that just made a lot of sense for me. That if you actually think about your goals from that standpoint, you can also be it allows you to be patient as well, because like you said, 1 year, like let's just say it takes a year. It doesn't matter what your goal is. If it takes you 1 year to do it, is it worth it? Right? Over the course of, if you get to live, let's say you're 30 years old, you get to live the next 50 years of your life, being happy, being healthy, feeling confident in yourself, like not worrying about your weight ever again. Like, is that worth it to take 1 year of your life?
But really, that year is going to go by either way.
And it's going to go by either way. And if you actually enjoy the freaking process, like, who cares? Like, even it's a win-win. It's not, we're not even saying you're going to suffer for that whole year. It's just you need to focus on the process and like, and you do it the right way. Like, it's enjoyable. Like, the reason that we're so passionate is because like it's easy for us, because it's something that it's fun. It's enjoyable. It actually is like the growth on the journey is far more fulfilling than any sort of like having abs or hitting any sort of PR. Like that's just like the icing on the cake, but like the fulfillment comes from the actual process, planting the seeds and doing it day in, day out and overcoming, hitting the obstacles, being present, being grateful. Like that's what it's all about. And I think that's the most important piece that I can stress to that is like when you enjoy the process, you figure out that the process is actually the fulfillment, then like you get to win every single day, because guess what? Outcomes, like they're over here, but like things you get to do every single day are right here. Like you get to like actually do it. And so basically every single day you get to wake up and be happy and be fulfilled, because the thing that you're doing is what makes you happy. So yeah, any piggybacks on that, on that last thought?
I got something for the next slide.
Okay. Tim, anything on this one?
Yeah, I'm good. I've got a million analogies today, but I'm gonna.
All right, so let's talk about karma. So karma is a word that we've all heard before. And so this is actually the definition of karma. If anyone hadn't looked at it before, it is defined as the universal law. And this is from, it's a Buddha, right? It came from the religion of, was it Buddhism? What's the word for that?
It's Buddhist, yeah, Buddhism.
Buddhist, yeah. Buddhist, right? And so karma is defined as the universal law of cause and effect, right? Volition behind each action, which produces favorable and unfavorable results in the future. Basically, it just means that nothing arises by itself. Every experience is conditioned by one that precedes it. So, John, I know that you were chomping at this one, so go ahead and take it over, my friend.
Well, it's vulnerability time. So I've talked about this a couple of times, but I spent many years in software. And I say that because it sounds cooler than saying software support.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of I did a great job of sending out great emails and like, you know, being the expert in software and everything. But I never felt like I actually earned anything, because I ended up having a very high paying job for I was an internship technically, but I was getting paid more than any college student I knew. I was working 30 to 40 hours a week, and I needed it. But I didn't feel like I'd set any roots to do that, because I was not doing well in school, and I was doing nothing else. And then after that job, I got a full-time salary position at another software company doing the same job, except thankfully this time with a little bit more technical pieces. But I still had that same feeling, like I know that I didn't plant the seeds for this. And that's not how I thought of it at the time. I felt like an imposter. Imposter syndrome is something that a lot of people deal with. And this time, though, I do feel that I was right. Because, yeah, I put in 3 years of hard work at the previous job. But by the time I got there, got to the second job, the full-time, more responsibilities position, I started to fail. I started to fail fast. And it wasn't lack of ability. It was lack of conviction. It was a little bit of boredom, but it was ultimately my responsibility that I was not prepared to handle. And so because I didn't plant those seeds, I lost my job. And I was freaking out about it, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have any money. Thankfully, a pandemic hit, so I was taken care of in the COVID unemployment, but there was no pride there. I wasn't planting any seeds still. And then thankfully, I found BSB. And since then, it's been this journey of actually feeling able to plant seeds. And now every benefit that I have, which by the way is, my life is much better than it was this full-time salary position. I'm actually earning it. And I walk around with the confidence knowing that I did plant the seeds for this, and I'm still planting seeds every day. And the fruit is boundless. I just have to keep doing it. So karma here is exactly it. I was out of balance with when my effect was a lot bigger than my cause, and it didn't make sense to me, but it caught up, and it did balance itself out, and I wasn't ready for it. So Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
That's awesome. And one thing we talked about too, John. So obviously, like you truly have made you made substantial growth, and you literally owned everything. You planted all the seeds to get to where you are today. And it's funny because every single time when you start to get frustrated by things not going your way, ultimately I ask is are you still planting seeds essentially? Like there's certain things that every time hey, are you still planting the seed? And you're like, no, and then I was just like, oh, duh, right? And so I think it's the more we can actually be honest with ourselves and just okay, I'm frustrated. So that's an emotion, right? As we talked about this before, emotion, there's a stimulus, our response, right? I'm doing nothing, right? I'm getting pissed off. I'm blowing up. That's what most people do over here. But if we can hold this space between stimulus and response, and it's okay, why am I feeling this feeling? Why am I feeling frustrated, right? And then so now we're okay, I want to blame, I want to do all this other stuff, but then take responsibility. It's okay, what can I do? What seeds I've been planting lately? And you start to look deep and oh, well, I used to I used to do this every single day. Now I'm only doing it once or twice a week. Could that be it? Yeah, maybe, right? You start to think about it from that point of view. All of a sudden you're able to take back control. And you understand that literally everything you do, no matter how small or how big, it literally plays a role in not only how you're feeling today, but also it's going to play a role in where you're at in the future. And I think it's really, that's why I'm such a huge proponent of if it's important, then why not do it every single day? I really got this belief in my head now that if it is important, I'm gonna do it every single day because it doesn't make sense why I would do something 6 out of 7 days. It really doesn't make sense to me. And I think that's with anything, because ultimately, if you stop doing something, ultimately there's going to be karma. It's going to show up for you, not on that day, most likely, but probably in a week or 2 weeks or in a year or in 2 years, whatever it may be, right? And so that's that's how I interpreted what you just said there. So anyway, Tim, what are your thoughts on that?
So I'll start off with something a little funny. When I was a kid, much like John, my dad would always say, I'm going to try to make this a little bit more PG than the way he said it. But basically, what goes around comes around, and I'll see you around. Meaning, if you get me, don't worry. I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to get better, and I'm going to come get you. But really, what he would say this to me, I was big into wrestling. I wrestled my entire life, and as a kid and all the way through middle school, I wasn't the best loser in the world. And one thing about wrestling is you get your butt whipped a lot, especially as you graduate into different weight classes. And especially when you get to high school and you're a freshman, you're wrestling seniors, you just get thumped, you get messed up. And I would get so frustrated and angry when I would get beat, and I would be kind of pissy. I was kind of a poor loser a little bit. And I would walk off the mat and my dad would grab me and pull me aside. He's like, hey, what goes around comes around. You'll see him around. Meaning we're going to get back. We're going to work harder. We're going to come back even stronger, and you will beat that person. So I think a lot of times when we talk about karma, especially in a religious sense or a spiritual sense, it more has a moral connotation associated with it. You do good things will happen to you, vice versa. But it's it very much holds true to the dividends that we reap in the actions that we do daily. So kind of like what you said, a good analogy is what I do. Bodybuilding is such a painfully slow process. My very first competition, I thought I was so much bigger than I really was. I started my diet at 240, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna be huge. And I ended up competing at 172. I lost so much weight. I didn't have near as much muscle as I thought I did. I just had a whole lot more fat than I thought I did. And each year, a lot of people see me, and this year I'm probably going to compete somewhere around 235, 240. But everybody's like, wow, you're huge. You must have always been huge. No, each year I put on about 3 to 5 pounds. That's it. And it goes so slow, you can't even tell until you get on stage the next year. It's that slow. So honestly, it's just every single morning, just focusing on what are the boxes that I have to check today? And they're always the same boxes. Did I eat my food? Did I move? Did I work out? Did I sleep? Boom. If I do those every single day, I will take, it's literally, if you actually look up the research, it's something as little as 0.8 grams of lean muscle mass per day. That's about all you're going to gain. And that's even with steroid assistance. You're not gaining any faster than that. That's it. It equates to about 3 to 5 pounds a year. So you just have to trust. I did those 4 things, Cool. I know I'm gaining just that little bit more, that little bit more. And when it comes to fat loss, it's exactly the same thing, only we're going down every time. So you just have to trust the process, keep putting money. It's literally like an investment. You're literally investing money that will pay you back later, but you have to trust the market. You have to trust the market to grow, because if you don't, you're going to be volatile. And I think it's really important, because a lot of times we see waves of fury of activity followed by long periods of complacency. And that literally does, it causes more drama and more stress than doing nothing the whole time. Because you're like, oh, I tried so hard. Yeah, but did you? No, you went 130% for 4 weeks, and then you did nothing for 8 weeks, and you expect to have the result of someone who did check 4 boxes every single day.
Yeah. I think that's it too. I think the frustration that people have, this comes from a lack of understanding that, like, well, did you actually do, like, did you actually, are you still doing something? Like, of course, like, you're not doing anything. You went from, like I said, 130% to 0%. And, like, do you think that's realistic? Do you think that's sustainable? Do you think, like of course you got where you're at? And again, that's where, like, truly being able to take that, like, responsibility and be able to remove yourself from the situation is a skill, and most people don't have it, obviously. But that's honestly, like, this is where I'll do a little. This is where coaching comes in, right? With that coaching, it allows somebody else who doesn't have the emotions tied, who actually can see from the outside in, to be able to tell you where your blind spots are, and, like, hey, like, Tim, right? Like, you tell me that you want to lose this weight, but, like, you also tell me that you have a cheat day every other Thursday, right? And you tell me that you, like, didn't show up to the gym at all this week because whatever your excuse was, you didn't feel good, right? Like, like, do you think that's actually serving you? Do you think that's going to help you, right? It's ultimately like what you plant is what you reap, right? And so sometimes we just need that outside advice, that outside wisdom, that outside insight to be able to call us out on our shit, to let us know that, hey, like, we're not doing as good as we thought we were doing, right? And all these reasons, justifications that we come up with, like, it doesn't matter, because ultimately that seed doesn't care about all your reasons and excuses. It only cares about if it gets watered and how many seeds are planted. That's all it cares about. And the more we can come out from that point of view, it's like, okay. So that's my insert, my injection for why coaching is so valuable, is because it allows us honestly to get out of our own way and have somebody who's got fresh perspective without emotions to just tell you like it is, and to help guide you through this journey of taking full responsibility and helping you reap what you sow.
And I'll be the first one to say, like, I believe in coaching so much. I've had a coach for over 6 years. I firmly believe in paying people egregious amount of money that are better that are where I want to be, to help me get there. Yeah. I know Logan believes a lot in coaching. I know John believes a lot in coaching. We practice what we preach. We don't tell people, hey, get a coach, and then we don't have a coach. Like, I firmly believe that, hey, I still have blind spots. I still need accountability. I still need someone to kick me in the ass every once in a while when I'm getting in my own way. I believe in that. I'm human just like you guys are human. So, lead from the front is what I always say. Like, we lead from the front. We believe in coaching. Therefore, we have coaches as well.
Yeah. No one has spent more money on coaching than I have. Guarantee it, right? And that's just the way, like, that's my belief, is that I invest it first, and that way, like, I can bring it down the ladder, right? So great point. All right. So belief breakthrough. So how does belief breakthrough fall into the law of harvest? And so, like I said in the beginning, like, our beliefs are the seeds that we plant to determine our harvest. We must uproot the weeds of limiting beliefs and plant new fruit-bearing beliefs in their place. So Tim's analogy is probably better than this, but we can't plant apples and expect oranges, right? And so actually those are two different things. But we can't plant tomatoes and expect to get a redwood tree, right? Or sequoia. Just like you can't plant that I'm not worthy of losing weight and then expect to harvest a body you're proud of, right? So it's literally the limiting beliefs that hold people back from actually getting what they want. It's like, oh, I can't lose weight. I'm not worthy. I'm not deserving. I'm not enough. And of course, if you believe those things, like, you are not going to be able to actually achieve a body that you're worthy of, that you're deserving of, that you feel good about, you're proud of, because, like, your beliefs hold you back. And your beliefs is where everything starts. Everything starts from here. And then from your beliefs, you start saying words. And then with your words, you start to, so, like, your words are a good predictor of your actions, right? But everything starts up here. And so that's what belief breakthrough does. It allows you to uncover these limiting beliefs, bring them to the surface, and, like, does that belief that I'm not worthy of losing weight, does that serve you? Is it helping you? Right? Is it even true? Of course it's not true, right? And so that's what the law, that's what the breakthrough does. It brings these seeds to the surface, and so you can recognize them, you can remove them, and then you can find new beliefs that actually do serve you and serve this vision of the person who you are becoming, and who is like deep inside you, who you need to uncover. So, John, go ahead and finish that out with the belief breakthrough.
So going to beliefs of not being worthy, not feeling like you deserve something or have the right to it. A big part of where that stems from. Well, let's back up. If you are saying I'm not worthy of losing weight, what you're really saying is I'm not responsible for it either. Because if you were to accept that responsibility, there would be no doubt in your mind that you're worthy of it. Because anybody who has gotten their dream body or has lost the weight that they wanted to lose, they did it. And they did it themselves because they realized it was their responsibility. Therefore, they are worthy. So deciding that you're worthy has to start with saying, well, first of all, no one else is going to do it for me. And just because I'm overweight now and I've done it to myself, it has no bearing on your worth. It's simply that responsibility you have to get where you want to be. And that actually like just clicked for me that, yeah, if you're not feeling worthy, it's because you haven't taken responsibility yet.
Fire. Tim?
I think that is fire right there, honestly. But I think it really comes back to like belief being the center of all action. And I'll ask you this question, Logan. If I told you that, hey, I can guarantee 1000% that if you follow XYZ habit, you will be a millionaire in 3 years, but you have to do it every single day. Would you do it if you had that full belief?
I'm doing it right now.
Hell yeah. It's the same exact thing, because guess what? To become a millionaire, decamillionaire, whatever, it takes a lot of work. Sometimes it's not comfortable. Sometimes it's downright painful. Sometimes you wake up on Sunday morning or Saturday morning and you're like, damn, I do not want to do this. But you know that if you do these things every single day, you're going to become a millionaire. Like, you know that. So that perpetuates that action because you have that belief. Same with weight loss, same with fat loss, same with fitness. If you believe that what you're doing, if you believe that you can do it first, and then you believe what you're doing is the way to get there, it's much easier to go through being sore, being tired, being out of breath, going through momentary periods of cravings, like not giving into temptation when you guys go out to dinner and your parents order pizza or your spouse orders a cocktail or something like that. Like, it's really easy when you have that belief that what you're doing is going to get you where you want to go. But if you don't have that belief, I would venture to say that it's almost impossible long term to thwart all of those temptations, laziness, complacency. It's very tough, if not damn near impossible, to thwart that if you don't have the belief. So if all of this stuff is kind of woo-woo and all this stuff seems a little bit out there, come back to the belief. And if you solidify that belief, the how doesn't mean as much. The why is really the most important thing.
Fire. Really good. That's it. Well, mic drop on that one. So, so basically, like, not to actually keep talking about it, but like, basically, just like, you need to get your beliefs right in order for you to get your goals right. That's really it, right? Plain and simple. It's also about action. How do we act on this law of harvest, right? And so, as Tim said, like, you must create these beliefs that serve you, because if you don't do it, then no matter what, like, it doesn't matter. Like, all the tangible stuff in the world doesn't matter if you don't have that true belief that you can make it happen, or that you are worthy, or that you are deserving, or that it's realistic, right? And so for an action, right? So action. There's actually two actions here. The first one is this one right here. So this would basically be like the easiest thing anybody can do, and that's by just literally like writing down all the beliefs that are going to serve your goal. So if your goal is to lose 50 pounds, you want to weigh 150 pounds. You're somebody who wants to wake up every single day being excited. When you look in the mirror, like, first off, you need to have that purpose, you need to have that goal. And then from there, it's like, what sort of beliefs do I need to believe in order for me to actually make that a reality? Like, oh, maybe I believe, like, I'm worthy of that, I'm deserving of that. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, I'm capable. Like, what are all the beliefs that you need to embody in order for that thing to become a reality. Like, I'll do whatever it takes. I will eat chicken and broccoli. That's what it takes every single day. I will do it, right? And this is actually one of the things that I have to challenge people on. Is like, oh, like I wanna lose 50 pounds, but I really want to eat chicken. I want to eat chicken and broccoli every single day. I was like, you think I do? I don't want to eat chicken and broccoli either. But you know what? I'm going to do whatever it takes in order to get there. If that means me eating chicken and broccoli, then goddamn it, I will do it. Right now, just from a tactical standpoint, you don't have to eat chicken and broccoli, but you need to have your mind made up that you will eat chicken and broccoli every single day if that's what is dependent on in order for you to get to your goal. Right, and that's a different type of commitment level. When you're all in, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll figure it out. I believe in myself that, like, if that's what it takes, I'll freaking do it. Right? If I gotta say no to all this stuff for the rest of my life, then I will do it. Because when you do that, it actually makes the process really easy. The decisions go away. All of a sudden it becomes easy, just like Tim said, like, you make your belief in your commitment first, that how becomes really easy. And you know what? It's actually really freeing, because ultimately, like, the choices become really clear which one to take. Like, it's like there's no more gray. It really is just like black or white, and then, like, the black way, or the white way, whichever way you want to look at it, is like, it just becomes the path. So, okay, John.
Just a small example of what you're talking about. This was before my health and fitness journey began. So my 21st birthday party, it was rough. They had a tally, or I had a tally on my hand for how many drinks I'd had that day, and it ended up being 22. The goal was 21, and we miscalculated, and I got 22.
You're too drunk.
Above and beyond.
Yeah, it was, yeah, exactly. Too drunk to even count. It was just, ugh. And it was at the end of the day that we added, or that we got it wrong. But anyway, it was a horrible night. By the end of it, it was a fun night until, like, drink about 16, and then after that, it was pretty bad. And I didn't wake up super hungover. Honestly, it wasn't too bad, but I just knew that I did not want to do that ever again. And I decided, it started with, I'm never going to get drunk again. And I haven't since then. So it's been a long time. And then after that, it's turned into, like, well, okay, now I found health and fitness. You know, I'm a very fit person, and alcohol just doesn't serve me at all. So I don't drink. I've ordered one beer this year, I think, and that was on date night. And it was nice. It tasted good, but I really didn't enjoy it all that much. And so it turned into this, all of a sudden, this decision of, I don't drink alcohol. I just don't. And now that decision has been made up, and it's been that way for a while, like, friends don't offer me drinks. They just say, yep, that's what he does. And there's no decision anymore. And so whenever I go to a restaurant and I have an opportunity for a drink, somebody puts a drink menu in front of me, I don't even look at it, because I know that I'm not going to get anything on it. And so when you have that same idea, like, you know what, I know that I'm going to eat chicken and broccoli every single day, or that I can, or that I could, or that it would work, you just do it. And once the decisions are gone, like, how much more likely are you to succeed if you don't have to make a decision, if that right decision is just permanently implanted in you?
All right. It's really good. Tim, bring it home, man. Bring it home.
So I think tactically, and I want everybody to take this to heart. I'm not a fan of demonizing or glorifying any one food groups. What I am a fan of is asking the question, when you're about to eat something, does this serve me or does this not serve me? And sure, there's going to be times in your life where having a drink, having a piece of cake, that it will serve you. But what I want you guys to take away from this is you have to choose that. Don't unconsciously make a decision. Ask yourself before you go into eating any given meal or any given snack, is this going to take me closer to my goals, or is this going to take me away? And then it makes the decision very clear, right? There are certain times where I can guarantee it, like right before my competition, we're going to do a pretty good carb load, and I know exactly what we carb load with. Actually, now since I have Crohn's, it might be a little different, but traditionally it was always a burger and fries, because we want to get a lot of fat, we want to get some sodium, and we want to get some carbohydrates in pretty rapidly. It helps with the glycogen filling process. But I don't eat it because I'm craving a burger and fries. I eat it because it serves a purpose towards my goal. So if you can just simplify your decision making into those two camps, does this serve me or does this not serve me? It makes the decisions way easier. And then, you know, from there, you don't have to live in guilt or shame of anything that you've done. Because if you do happen, like with John on date night, ordering a beer, if you happen to go in and be like, you know what, I'm connecting with my wife tonight, we're going to have a good night, I'm going to have one drink, that's my decision, I'm choosing to do that. It might not be serving my fat loss goals, it might not be serving my muscle building goals, but it's going to serve my connectivity with my spouse. It's going to serve a different goal for me. So it is serving me, right? You can answer that question honestly and feel good about the decision you make. However, if you went out with buddies and your intention was to be clean, eat on your diet, and they guilt you into having a couple beers with them, you get a little drunk, the next morning you're like, damn, why did I do that? Like, that didn't mean anything to me. Like, that's the opposite of what we want. We want you to be conscious with every single decision that you make. And the only way to be conscious, honestly, is just to pay attention, slow down, and ask yourself, does it serve me or does it not? And it can literally, that can transpose across different facets of life too. It's not just with food. It could be the way that you talk to your boss, the way that you talk to your children, the way that you speak to your wife, any actions that you do at work. Like, am I showing up work? Am I actually giving my best today? Is my action serving this company or is it not? And when you take that mentality in everything, like, karma's going to come around. It really will.
And I didn't think about that by saying that the real goal is for you to be an expert decision maker and you feel confident in your decisions. Like, that's actually what it's about. Actually, it's nothing to do with the widget, whether it's a burger, whether it's some sort of financial decision. It's all about your decision making process and your belief in it and your ability to feel in control of it, right? And I'll finish this with a personal example of, like, I just got done literally eating the exact same meal. It wasn't chicken and broccoli. Every single meal for an entire year, literally chicken, rice, turkey, sausage, every single meal. And so obviously there's a lot of times in there where I was saying no to things like cake, saying no to like going out in specific situations. And so now that I've gotten through this whole year, that was my goal. Now, as I get into situations, now I'm saying yes to these things, but I'm still doing it in a planned way. And so, like, a good example would be like last night, we actually went out. It was the first time I've gone out and ate in over a year. And I don't eat out generally. Even before that year, we didn't go out and eat a ton, but went out and I got it online. I looked at the menu. I picked what I was going to order before I even got in there. I knew how much I was going to have, and I just did it, and it was fine. Right? I was in control. And I think ultimately, like, those are the type of decisions though that helped me throughout this whole year, that I just have a plan. Now I'm able to go out and eat and enjoy food without feeling any guilt or shame, which ultimately is what it's all about, is like just being in control of your decisions, right? So like it had nothing to do with what I ate, right? I had a chicken sandwich and fries with some ranch on it, right? Like, maybe somebody would call that unhealthy. It doesn't matter, right? Like, your version of unhealthy is different than my version of healthy or unhealthy, because ultimately healthy literally just depends on what your perception of it is. Like there's no actual definition. But to me, I had a plan, I executed, and I felt good about it. That's all that matters. And so the real lesson to be learned here is, like, you just need to figure out who you are. You need to become an expert decision maker, and throughout that process, it will tell you what is right or wrong, because ultimately what's right or wrong is literally just your own perceptions. That's really it. So yeah, anything else we want to add to that?
Love it.
Make good decisions. Make the decision and own it.
Yeah.
And you will
And
beat it.
if you're watching this, you made the right decision to watch this. So we really do appreciate you watching this, and hopefully taking something home from it. Again, I take just as much probably as anybody else does from this. I always learned lots of cool lessons and lots of things to take home with me. But anyway, Tim, I appreciate you. John, I appreciate you as well. Thanks for being on this, and thanks for sharing your guys' thoughts and wisdom. But Wild Harvest, episode 10 is complete. We'll be back next week for another law. So happy Thursday, or whatever day it is you're watching this, and we'll be back next week. Oh.
See ya.